Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you again. Black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Welcome to Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Charney.
And I'm your co-host, Shay Northrup.
Today we're going to talk about Samsung phones exploding, why Apple's really a good product. We're going to be talking about flat pack vehicles that are shipped anywhere in the world, and USB killer computers.
Well, I don't know about Apple being a good product, but we'll talk about it.
So we're just going to go straight into it. Samsung's new flagpole phone, the Galaxy Note 7, has been exploding globally.
Oh, yes. There's a huge recall on them right now.
We have a couple of reports. One is actually setting a Jeep on fire in the UK. The phone just being set, I think it was charging in the vehicle, and guy comes out a little bit later. It's engulfed in flames. And,
holy smokes.
And this is talking about lithium-ion batteries, and it's not the first time anything with a lithium-ion has actually set anything on fire. It's been known to in laptops. Apple, I think, the iPhone for a while is having issues, so it's nothing new.
Right. Well, and we've mentioned in previous episodes in the past that the lithium-ion battery has a huge potential to explode. And actually, if you get lithium-ion batteries, a lot of times on the batteries or on the box they come in, they say this device may explode.
It reminds me of some of the old TVs I had as a kid. You open the back, there was a giant radiation sticker. So,
yeah. Well, it's funny, too. When this first started, I believe it was the recall happened September 2nd, and it started with a girl whose phone caught on fire in her pants. Ooh. And there was like a big old hole in the pants pocket, and she had like bandages on it for a while. And if you see some of the pictures of these phones after they're done exploding, it's crazy. Also, the latest one that I just uncovered was a little boy about 6 years old was playing with his Samsung, and it blew up in his hands, set the smoke alarm off, and now the poor little boy, after going to the hospital and everything, is terrified to even touch a phone.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just imagining you're playing Fruit Ninja or whatever games little kids want to play, and then the next thing you know, it's on fire.
You throw your bird in Angry Birds to knock down the little pig fort, and next thing you know, boom, your phone's blowing up in your hand.
Yeah. So according to this, I found a couple of UK stories about this, which is the more interesting thing to me. So there's a UK retailer called Carphone Warehouse who stopped the sales of the phone. And while the matter is being investigated, Verizon, apparently they're stopping the sales. But apparently in some U.S. retailers they're still available. T-Mobile, AT&T, and I guess a few other ones, at least from some of the articles I read, were selling at the time the article was posted. A number of airlines, United States Airlines,
yes.
Emirates Airlines, I think some of the UK airlines have all actually asked these phones, if not to bring them on the plane, but if they are on the plane, to turn them off, not use them at all.
That is something that's been going out for a little bit now.
Wait, hold on. A little bit of an update just came across. Verizon has been in touch to say that they're not stopping the sales of the Note 7. Additionally, customers who bought the phone may return it to a Verizon store with no restocking fee if they wish.
Yes, there is a recall on the phone, but Samsung has officially come out and said that it's, 25 in a million that blow up?
Yeah, but if you're the 25 people out of a million or whatnot, it's still all bad. It's a great phone, don't get me wrong. I actually like the bigger phone. The Note's a great phone, but not worth the risk. If my iPhone was on the risk of catching fire, I'd be switching to Android. So.
Yeah, well, that's why I use LG.
LG actually makes some pretty good handsets.
They're really good, and they're really affordable.
It's interesting. There are 35 reports of lithium batteries were exploding while being charged. The American aviation regulator and various Australian airlines were joined by India today, asking customers not to charge or turn on their Note 7. So the question is, this is a pretty big deal for Samsung marketing-wise.
Yeah, they were the top dogs in Android just a minute ago, too.
Yeah, because they beat out HTC for the top spot. And so this potentially, depending on their stance, could kill the brand.
Oh, Yeah, I mean, it potentially could.
They did announce a worldwide recall, though. So, I mean, depending on how they play this off, I think it'll go well for them. I do think the whole, it's only 25 of a couple of million phones. No worries. I think that's kind of it's not a big deal. Who cares if your house burns down and you have lifetime injuries from one of our phones burning down?
Or just a permanent fear of phones.
As bad as that sounds, at least he would never have to pay for a cell phone.
Right. Well, another thing too,
honestly, I'm making jokes about it because it's uncomfortable. That's horrible. I'd be absolutely livid if my kid got a burn from a cell phone. But on the other hand, you got to make jokes about things because, well, for one, that would still freak me out. So making people laugh just makes everything better.
I agree. It's also interesting to note, like this, we haven't seen this a lot in the past, and it's something that we've all kind of been waiting for to happen.
I am curious on why, because I remember, was it laptops? A number of years ago, I think it was either Apple laptops or Lenovo laptops had the issue, and it was a manufacturing mistake, if I remember correctly.
Well, and with Samsung phones in general, I don't know if you've ever owned a Samsung phone.
No.
I have owned a few. I had the Victory, and I know a lot of people claim that their Samsung phones always get really hot anyway.
Yeah, I've actually heard that complaint.
That's a big complaint with Samsung phones. So I guess this time it got so hot that it caught on fire.
Well, one thing for me on that is one issue with the Samsung phones I always thought is you can take off the back. Now, taking off the back is not a bad thing, but the problem is if you actually see the back cover, it's very flimsy. I mean, it's very thin.
Well, I mean, that's for most phones. Like if you even take a look at my LG, most cell phones for Android, you can take off the back, and it's literally just plastic in between the battery and the actual phone itself.
See, now, I'm wondering if you get phones like the iPhone, for example, you can't remove the back. There's other Android phones that do. I wonder if that's better in the sense the fact that the back is thicker.
I like it because, well, yeah.
You can change the battery. I mean,
yeah, that's the thing I like, is I can just pop out and put in a new battery if I want to.
Well, yeah, that's the one drawback is every time my phone, when the battery dies, I got to buy a new phone.
Right, and that's something that is a real bummer because after you charge a battery, eventually.
Oh yeah, the batteries only have so many life cycles. The other question is this a problem with the batteries or is this a problem with the phone? Because in theory, Samsung could just send everybody a new battery and you're good to go. Now, is this a charging problem within the phone that's causing good batteries to explode?
That is a really good question. I think it's probably the case. It's probably a charging problem with the phone itself.
So it's sending too much voltage because the articles do talk about the phones were charging. So it's the regulator, something that's charging it, that's sending so much voltage to the phone that it actually explodes is insane.
So from what I've seen, according to the story with the little boy, it says that it was in his hands when it happened and he was playing with it. So I don't think it was plugged in. I know sometimes I use my phone on a trickle charge and play games while it's trickle charging. But
you said he was 5 years old?
He was 6. To quote the grandma, she says that it was enough to, quote, set off the alarms of my house. He is home now. He doesn't want to see or go near any phones, and he's been crying for his mother. So I think it was just minor burns to his hands.
So first or second degree burns then.
Right, but there was also where this started was that young lady who it went off in her pocket. So I'm assuming that it might have something to do with the batteries giving off too much power, and maybe it's something in between is catching fire.
Yeah, because one of the articles I read, it was charging, so... this is interesting. This is horrible, though, because I really like my phone, so I'll be honest. So I'm thinking, say, if my 6 Plus exploded, I'd be very hard-pressed because it's a great phone. The Note 7 is supposed to be an absolutely amazing handset. So I can totally see people go, I'll take the risk.
Right.
But the other problem is if it was a battery problem, replace it. But if it's actual handset issue that has to be reworked...
Well, and it kind of reminds me of the whole, like you bringing up the fact that people might still stick with it. It's the old red ring of death thing on the Xbox. Even though it happens, people just keep buying them. Okay,
I'm guilty of this. I'm really guilty of this. So when it comes to Xboxes, I've had 2 original Xboxes and I've had 3 360s. The one issue, though, was I was just forced to pay more money. I wasn't at risk of burning down my house, thankfully.
That's true.
See, to me, this is a health risk, and that's one of the reasons I'd be really hard-pressed, because when you find a good handset or a really good phone you like, you don't want to switch away from it. I mean, you could go to the previous version, but it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. So this is going to be really interesting to see how this turns out. And we're coming up to a break. When we come back from the break, we're going to be talking about the Apple announcement that happened last week.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, so Apple CEO Tim Cook on Wednesday has officially unveiled the iPhone 7.
Wait. You hear that sound? That's everybody being excited.
Oh, yeah. The hype train is here. Although they have confirmed that rumor of dread that we have all been fearing. That rumor that is the fact that it does not come with a headphone jack.
Wow. Why would you do that? I know I'm kind of jumping my turn, but why? Was this a necessity? Were there flocks of people going, we hate analog?
It's interesting that you brought that up, because according to Apple, they have congratulated themselves for its, and I quote, courage in making the move. But the reception is not so great.
No. This is like banning beer at ball games. Nobody likes this.
A couple other quotes that I've heard about it. One from Charles King is, this is great, killing the headphone jack and pushing customers towards Apple-made AirPods seems like a fundamental mistake to me. Doing so is likely the only way that the company could ever fully profit from its $3 billion Beats acquisition.
Well, the only problem with the Beats stuff is half their Beats product line does not work with their new phone without an additional dongle that I guarantee is going to cost an additional $50 on top of the $159 earpods. Yeah.
Some of the good things about it, though, it has a really nice camera. So the iPhone 7 has a 12-megapixel camera featuring optical image stabilization.
Now, is this the 7 and the 7 Plus? Because originally when it came with a 6, then 6 Plus. Only the 6 Plus had the actual optical image stabilization, the actual mechanical one.
Yes, but this one also has, f-stop of 1.8 aperture, a 6-element lens. You can do depths of field that you can't really do with
so you're
a
doing
lot of
it,
the older
you're
iPhones.
doing it native then, instead of having to do
apps. So
not bad.
It has a 12-megapixel telephoto camera with a 12-meg wide-angle camera. It's pretty great. It has a 2x2 optical zoom and is supposed to be amazing. So sharper selfies and, more angry photographers, because now you can do it with your phone.
So I do have one thing that I'm really begging Apple to do is come up with something like Chromecast audio. Now, I have a Chromecast audio.
Right.
Because my Raspberry Pi was having issues with the way I was using it as an AirPlay receiver. If Apple came up with an $80, $30 doesn't matter dongle that you can plug speakers into, I would be really happy.
Gotcha.
That's the one thing, because I use my headphone jack more in my nightstand than I do anything else.
Huh, that is very interesting. I'm sure, because what they talk about doing too, one of the things that is important to note about the headphones thing, since we're talking about it, so the AirPods do not come with the iPhone 7. Now, what does happen is a pair of wired earbuds called EarPods that plug into the Lightning port on the bottom of the phone.
Now, does this use up the lightning port completely, or does this have like an additional lightning port on top of it? You know, like the Christmas lights have on it with this plug on a plug?
That's a really good question. I think it's just like your standard lightning plug that you would use to charge your phone anyway.
I really hate this.
Yeah, no, it's kind of bad.
I love my iPhone, and I'm as close to an Apple fanboy as a lot of people can get. People like me, I mean, because I use everything, Linux, you name it. But this is a poor decision. I really don't see how this is going to get Apple anywhere. Now,
I think people are going to buy it anyway, honestly.
Well, the only thing I was thinking is when they got rid of the optical drive on their laptops, I felt the same way. Now, will everybody feel the same way a couple of years ago? I don't think so. But, you know, I'm also, you know, I'm in my mid-30s, so maybe this is something that the younger generation will be fine with. I just don't see this going well. I'm
not to defend Apple or anything. I think this is a terrible idea, but to play devil's advocate a little bit, one of the things that you'll notice is a lot of people using headphones today aren't using earbuds. They aren't using regular style headphones. A lot of people are using Bluetooth headsets. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah, no, that's true. The only thing I'm really curious when it comes to that is, along with the Apple Watch that uses Bluetooth, is the fact if you're also using a Bluetooth headsets, whether you're using Beats, Apples, or Skullcandy, or the myriad of other companies that release them, is the batteries just don't last when you're using that much power.
Well, one of the things that Apple has mentioned, and so this is, I'm going to kind of segue into the AirPods a little bit. So with the AirPods, and they haven't confirmed with the other Bluetooth devices, but the AirPods work on Bluetooth, so it's a safe assumption that you can listen to your music for 5 hours consecutively with the AirPods without having to worry about the battery completely draining.
That's what, a quarter of a flight? I mean, I'm sorry. I know I'm sounding really negative even for me, but this is ridiculous.
Well, I'm playing music on your phone anyway. It would probably only give you about 5 hours of battery life, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, but it's gonna. Well, what are they called? EarPods.
The AirPods.
The AirPods. So those get 5 hours, but your phone may not get 5 hours, because if you're having an Apple Watch and you have the Bluetooth on for the AirPods, it's going to drain it even faster.
Right.
And imagine, so you have two Bluetooth devices, if that's possible, along with having Wi-Fi if you're on a plane.
So something I should also tell you. Do you want to know how much these things cost?
$159-$160.
It's about $159. So yeah, you're almost on the money. So they're a little expensive. For that price, you can actually buy a pair of Bose headphones. Like, not their greatest headphones, but you can buy a decent pair of Bose headphones, which are my personal favorite brand.
You can buy a set of Shure studio quality, like legit studio quality headphones. You can buy high-end studio headphones for that much money for the average consumer.
I think you could buy maybe like 2 or 3 Sony professional headsets.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little ridiculous.
I mean, or my favorite headset of all time is the AKG 240. It's a semi-open headphone, but you can buy like 3 pairs with that much money.
Oh, those are great. I actually have a pair of those locked away in my closet. I don't use it very often.
I had a pair, but the right or left speaker went out, and I'm like, I'll get some. I wanted to try something different.
They kept getting twisted up for me.
This is, I don't know. I mean, I think this is something that we're going to have to see how it plays out. I'm waiting to see what the aftermarket does.
Yeah.
Was it Griffin? It was one of the technology people who provide aftermarket supports, came out with a dongle that actually provided 2 Lightning ports. Now, the question with that is, will the iPhone actually be able to use that? Will it be able to play headphones and charge at the same time without causing interference?
Well, I feel like Apple's going down the route of, to go back to my original Apple stance, it's kind of like the Sega. Do you remember the Sega, was it the Saturn that had all those extra dongles?
Yeah, you had like the Sega Master, so you had the CD add-on, you had this add-on.
You had like the 32-bit cartridge, and then the CD add-on. And then
it was the Sega Tower of Babel.
Pretty much. And I'm feeling like eventually Apple products, what with their new computers not having USB ports, and the fact that the Apples phone isn't going to have a headphone jack, we're going to be seeing these mega super devices that are all connected like a bunch of mega blocks.
No, jeez. No, this is you do bring up a pretty interesting question. Now, a little prognostication, because this would never happen. Imagine if Steve Jobs, God rest his soul, didn't pass away. I don't see him doing this. And the reason being is everybody knows he hated holes, he hated screws, but I don't see him liking extra dongles. I just don't see that happening. Now,
yeah, you make a good point. I know he hated holes, but I feel like he would find a better way around it than dongles.
So I'm thinking that this is something that I think is kind of away from his vision. Now, he really wasn't, from everything I've ever read, he wasn't really a technology guy as much as he was a designer. Steve Wozniak, the other co-founder of Apple,
right? He
was the engineer guy. Steve Jobs was the world's greatest carnival barker, along with having an amazing aesthetic for design. So to me, I think they're going left when they should go right. I don't necessarily disagree with getting rid of the analog, but I don't think giving people a choice is very poor.
Now, the iPhone 7 Plus starts at around the price of $649. However, customers can do a $32 a month plan on its upgrade program or whatever.
Is this AT&T?
It does not say.
Because a lot of the times I think AT&T, Verizon do things similarly. Instead of a 2-year locked-in contract, what you end up doing is you pay for 18 or 24 months for the full price of the phone. So what you normally do is you'll be paying for your data, your talk and text, along with the additional $20, $30, $40 a month.
Gotcha.
Up to the 24 months. And we are coming up to break, and after we get back to the break, we're going to be talking about an interesting vehicle that can be shipped anywhere in the world.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Now, I'm not quite sure if my cohort here knows who Gordon Murray is.
Who is Gordon Murray?
Now, if anybody out there's listening is a car fanatic, he's the guy who's behind the supercar at like the McLaren F1.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what this is basically a vehicle that can be packed up and shipped anywhere in the world. And it's not the best looking vehicle in the world, but the coolest thing is everything is flat. There's no curved panels, and it can be put in a shipping container and shipped out and reassembled.
Oh, that's kind of awesome. I bet you, though, it's airflow and does not help your gas mileage.
Oh, no, not at all. The articles I read about it was talking about this is for areas in the world that are really hard to ship to, very remote, where they just need brute force versus maybe aesthetic design.
Gotcha.
Now, the part that surprised me, it is two-wheel drive. The problem is four-wheel drive, having the transfer case does actually add weight to the vehicle. So it's a two-wheel drive off-road van made from plywood. And it's called the Ox. It's aimed at remote areas of the world like Africa where transporting food, equipment, and other supplies over rough terrain is difficult. The body parts, seat, and window screen are all flat and fit into the same box, Murray says. Simple enough that a team of 3 non-experts can fully assemble the Ox in less than 12 hours.
That's awesome.
The positive side about that, too, is I'm assuming, say, if you're in a mountain pass somewhere in some remote area of the world, and there's no way for the vehicle to get around. I'm assuming you can take it apart, walk it across, and reassemble it and get on your way. Kind of like the Vikings did with their ships.
That's awesome.
And I don't know if you've listened to this before. You know, myself and Shay are really big fans of stuff like this, like that emergency housing shelters that came all equipped with solar panels and stuff.
Well, I just love it when you have practical uses for technology besides just your everyday computing. It's great to see that there's great technology coming out in the medical world, in the automotive world, and just being able to help people, I think, is where technology should be focused.
No, exactly. Now, the engine is a 98 BPH motor, so it's, well, let's be honest, it's not the greatest. It's an engine of reliability more than horsepower, which is pretty much what this is. The ox itself is the same length as a Ford Focus, but can carry up to 2 tons despite its construction. There's room to transport 8 oil drums, the 3 standard pallets, or up to 10 people. Although it's not the most spectacular car, Murray said, it's the designer's hopes it will reach people and aid thousands of millions of people. This is cool.
I actually like the way this thing looks, honestly. It reminds me of those old... I mentioned Mega Bloks earlier, but it reminds me of like building a car out of Mega Bloks. Like, it kind of looks like it's this square, almost ATV looking thing.
Yeah, it vaguely reminds me, very vaguely, of the Mercedes Unimog. I don't know if you heard it.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. This thing is really cool. I don't know how much they're going for on the market, but like, I would like to get my hands on one of them. Yeah.
See, that's the other thing is... I actually think they should sell this, and here's what my idea is they should let normal American citizens pay for one, and then say make it twice as expensive, or maybe say if it was $10,000, make it $15,000, then that'll pay for half of somebody's other one, in a third world country.
Right.
And I would buy one just because I think it's a neat idea. I mean, I'd love the idea of having a vehicle stowed away somewhere,
Does it say how much these things are going for?
I did not. I'm thinking right now this is straight just a design concept. That's the problem. I didn't find anything that really specified the cost. I'm assuming, because you've got the engine, the drivetrain, the brakes, I'm assuming at the cheapest it's probably $5,000.
I'm thinking more like 10.
But I was thinking if they're using very common parts, especially ones if you can find in junkyards, it may be cheaper.
Right. If you could just get like a basic like model and then be able to, I don't know. This thing's pretty cool. I don't know like if you would need a class what class B license for trucking. Probably not.
I actually don't know enough about that. I think it depends on...
They're pretty big.
I think it depends on how much weight and how many axles. I think there's a bunch of things that go into it. I know Freightliner has what's called a sport chassis. It's basically a civilian 18-wheeler, and it can tow up to 20,000 pounds. You can do it with a Class C license.
Oh, really? Yeah, so I guess it would be Class C. It is kind of a little on the larger side, but if you're down for that kind of thing, I don't know. I would buy one of these if I had the money. The only thing is I don't think they're the most safest thing in the crash, but considering, if you do crash, you just stop over at Home Depot. I think that's pretty neat. Unless you mess up your radiator or engine or whatever. I can't imagine what it would be like to go take this into my mechanic. Like, hey, can you fix my aux?
Yeah. That'd be hilarious. It's like, well, I can't fix the body panels. I don't have a like a bandsaw or whatnot.
Well,
table saw.
I'm pretty sure most shops do, but
right. So what's on your list?
Oh, yes. So this is something that I've been really excited to talk to you guys about. So there is a computer-killing USB drive running around. So, one of the things when I was in college, went to film school, you'd find a USB, and a lot of times people would just kind of hold on to them for their own use.
Nefarious.
So nowadays, I'd say, guys, do not steal USBs because this is something that is a little crazy. So this computer-killing USB drive is now on sale for less than $60 on various websites. I don't know if you can get it on Amazon. You could probably get it on eBay. There are a couple different places you can get it. So what this thing does... So hacker Dark Purple disclosed this USB flash drive designed to fry a modern system as soon as you plug it in. So listen to this. The drive works by discharging 220 volts through the USB port. So it doesn't exactly tell us how exactly this drive functions, but you can get the USB Kill Drive 2.0 for just $50. And here's how the company describes the product. The USB Kill 2.0 is a testing device created to test USB ports against power surge attacks. USB Kill 2.0 tests your device's resilience against the attack.
I can see this just going wrong. Somebody's like, well, I want to test my USB drives, buys
God.
it, and go, let's see how if this something's wrong. This is going to go... I can see so many bad things happening to this. By the way, this is why in the Pentagon you can't have access to the USB ports.
So yeah, what did they like tape them or they super glue them?
I've heard stories from people I know that some are glued over, some are just completely removed off the board.
So what it does is it collects power from the USB lines, and it collects it until it reaches 240 volts, and then it discharges the storage volts into the USB data line. So what this does is it sends the charge out and through your motherboard and killing your your circuits.
So it's definitely some capacitance happen. So it's got to store the voltage and spit it out,
and it like literally fries your computer. Like it's crazy. And so there are people who are like, oh well, I don't know if this will work on Mac. No. It's sending voltage to your motherboard and CPU, and it's going to just... Basically, where power is supposed to come out, you shouldn't put it back in.
Yes. Oh, dear God. This is going to be interesting, because I guarantee some kid's going to buy one so he can play a prank on his friends or fry a computer at school.
And, like, what's really interesting about this, too, is what it'll do is it'll, like, take it, store it, shoot it out, take it, store it, shoot it out, take it, store it, shoot it out, and it does it like within seconds. I watched a video of it, and the guy plugged it into his laptop, and in like, you heard kind of a little bit of a sound, and then all of a sudden, boom, computer's gone. Like it didn't even take it more than 2 seconds. Like he plugged it in, and it just killed it. And he's trying to turn it on. He plugs it in, tries to turn it on, just fried his computer. So if you guys are looking for a good revenge prank, I'm not saying you should, but this might be a good option.
Golden State Media Concepts cannot confirm or deny and do not recommend buying this product or using it as a revenge prank. It's not liable for any damage you cause by doing so.
I could just like see people going into like retail stores and plugging these into all the computers, or like if someone's mad at their college or mad at whatever, they can just go and like just destroy everything that they can get their hands on because they're angry. I could see someone doing it at my college.
I am curious on how much voltage this actually puts out. No, the only reason why is because if it puts out enough voltage, you could turn something into a bomb, depending on how it works.
I don't think it's enough for that, but you could be right. And if someone were to hack this or modify it, and I mean, the device itself, I mean, take a look at the picture. Like, it looks... It's basically, it has like a little skull where the USB thing is.
It literally looks like a cheap, cheesy thumb drive. By the picture, it's a white thumb drive with a white plastic housing with a little like electronic skull on it, and has a cap on it. And you could, wow.
You could just drop this somewhere, and I bet you anything you'd be killing at least like 3 computers.
So ladies and gentlemen, I do recommend it. If you buy this, make sure you put death or write something on it, or keep it away from your other thumb drives. Keep
it away from your children. Yeah. Keep it away from hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your husbands too.
Matter of fact, if you have some sort of safe, I recommend putting it in there.
This is a scary device.
Yeah, this is horrifying.
I'm not plugging in USBs that I don't know.
You know what the worst part about it? I could see myself buying it just to have it as a joke and then forgetting about it and totally destroying my computer.
Jeez, I wonder like how much damage this does too. Like, will you be able to save your video drive or your video card? Would you be able to save your RAM? Like, does it just destroy everything? Like,
well, my first thought is it definitely destroys RAM, because RAM, from what I remember, is very sensitive to any sort of spike.
Yes.
Processor, that I don't know. It definitely kills any sort of RAM. It definitely probably kills any of the...
Probably fries your motherboard.
Yeah, my guess is it's all the chips on board that just can't handle the voltage spikes. But does... So, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to a close, but we do have a question for you. If you know anything about computers or have anything more to add to this particular topic, go to facebook.com, type in GSMC Technology Podcast. Go there and write a comment on this episode. This is episode 29, and we do check our Facebook page regularly. Along with that, go to gsmcpodcast.com, select Technology Podcast, and subscribe to that along with a myriad of other shows that we have here.
So many good shows.
And from Jonathan Charney
And Shay Northrup.
as always, thank you for listening.